my grandpa. What is your full name?
My full name is Theodore John Jorin.
Were you named after someone?
I was named after my father, whose name was also Theodore. His middle name was Emil, however.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Milwaukee at St. Anthony's Hospital, which is in kind of like downtown Milwaukee. It's still there, still operating as a hospital, and that was in 1930. So that's a long time ago. That's 66 years ago. My goodness.
What was your earliest childhood memory?
Oh, golly, I guess some of my earliest memories were when we lived on Bartlett Avenue on the east side of Milwaukee. And I can remember one Christmas, we had a great big Christmas tree, and I got a cowboy suit uh, for Christmas. It was really neat. I remember that. And we had a train that ran around the bottom of the tree. That was really nice. Great big train, not a little HO gauge. It was a real train.
What were your hobbies?
I liked music mostly. I think when I was a child, and I like to work puzzles and do games.
Who were your brothers and sisters?
Well, there's my brother Bob and my older sister Irene and my younger sister Mary Jane. So there were the four of us.
Did you have any favorite subjects in school?
Uh, yeah, I did. I liked math and I was and English. Those are my majors, and I enjoyed mechanical drawing. And in math, I especially liked geometry. I like the relationship of objects to one to another, so forth. Before we go on into this any further, I'd like to talk about my parents a little bit. Okay. And my parents and my grandparents came. My On my father's side, they came from Basel, Switzerland, and that was the home of our family in Switzerland on my father's side. And they came to Darlington, Wisconsin, and settled there, and lived on a farm. And they were farmers. And my dad went through eighth grade in school, and then he left the farm and went to work in a lead mine. In that, and there were a lot of lead mines in that part of Wisconsin. It's in Grant County, and in fact, there's one town in Grant County called Galena, Wisconsin, and Galena is lead ore is called Galena, and that's where this little town got its name. And my dad worked in a mine called the Blockhouse Mine in Grant County, and as a lead miner when he was a young man. And then later he went to work as a millwright, and millwrights were the people who set up machinery in new plants, like in a steel mill. All the big conveyors and so forth, those were all set in place by millwrights. My dad became a millwright, and then later on he became a policeman in the city of Milwaukee. And my mother was born in Birmingham, England, and that's where my mother's family all came from. And she came to the United States, I think, when she was about maybe 9 or 10 years old. And her mother, Elsie, was a chef at the Shorecrest Hotel in Milwaukee. And, uh, and she was a terrible cook, fortunately, she only made salads. She was just a salad chef, so she didn't have to cook a whole lot. Um, and that gives you some background anyway on the family. And my dad met my mother in Milwaukee, and of course they got married and went on from there. So, okay, now let's get back to your questions, Luke.
What kind of job did you have as a young adult?
Well, let's see. I started out, first of all, when I was about 12 years old, I think I had a paper route for the Milwaukee Sentinel, which was a Milwaukee morning paper. And I did that for about a year. And then I went to work for Frank Jaster. He was an upholsterer. And he had an upholstery store on 34th and North Avenue in Milwaukee. And so I worked for him after school 3 nights a week and on Saturdays. And he paid me, I think, 32 cents an hour. That was a lot of money in those days. And then I went to work at Schuster's department store in the candy department. You can't hardly get a better job than that as a young man. I got paid 45 cents an hour and all the candy I could eat. So that was a pretty good job. And that's basically what I did. Then later on, when I was going to high school, I worked construction projects during the summer on building construction on a cement crews and so forth. So that was a lot of good exercise.
What was your main career and how were you trained?
Well, let's see. I went to college. I went to the School of Mines down in Platteville, Wisconsin, where the Bears have their training. The Chicago Bear football team trains during the summer in Platteville, Wisconsin. There's also a school down there, an extension of the University of Wisconsin. And at that time, when I was going there, it was called the School of Mines, and it wasn't part of the Wisconsin University. And the school majored in geology and mining engineering. And so I was originally thinking of becoming a geologist, which I thought would be a lot of fun. And because I've always been interested in geology and archaeology and that type of thing. So it's been fascinating. Still is to me. I still enjoy reading about it and so forth. So I went there for a year, and then I went to University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee for another year. So that was my really just the 2 years of education at college. And then I went to work for a friend who was starting up a new business selling hydraulic seals. His name was Bill Robbins. And I went to work for him in 1951, and I worked for him until 1968 for 17 years and sold hydraulic seals and then went on from there. But I've been involved in basically in the hydraulics industry all my life. So it's a long time.
When were your children born? What were their names?
Oh, sure, you're going to ask me dates now. That's
Well,
don't ask me dates. I don't remember dates.
just
But
say
they
how
were all
beautiful
born in
we were.
Milwaukee. And the children were, of course, your mom, Laura, who was the oldest and dearest of all the children. And then her brother, Ted Jr., and better known as Buzzy. And then after that was a son called Jonathan. And Jonathan died when he was only 6 months old. And then after that came Mary. And then finally, your Uncle Bob, whose wedding we were just attending over this last weekend.
How did you meet Grandma Chris? What was she like?
Well, Grandma Chris was a very nice, attractive young lady, and I met her in a tavern. And I think a lot of people meet their wives or husbands in taverns, at least in Milwaukee, because we have a lot of taverns. And anyway, that's where we met on a Saturday afternoon, and I was in there with some friends. And they dared me to go down and talk to that little attractive girl at the end of the bar who was sitting all alone. And so on a dare, I did go down and introduce myself, and we started talking. And the next thing I knew, we were married. So that's where we met. And she was a very, very exciting young lady to meet.
Can you tell me about your happiest times in your studies?
Well, let's see. I guess the happiest time was the years that I've spent with Chris. She's made me a very happy person. She's a wonderful wife. And the saddest times were the death of my mother, who died when I was only 19 years old in 1949, and the death of my son Jonathan. That was very sad. And I'm sad also, of course, that my first marriage didn't work out to Pat, who was a very fine lady, and just that we weren't compatible, I guess, after a number of years. So, but we still see each other and respect each other, and I like her a lot. She's a nice person.
What have you accomplished in your life that makes you proud?
Well, I've been very active in the hydraulics market. As I mentioned, I'd spent a lot of time doing that as a salesman and so forth. I've got a lot of recognition by people throughout the country in the hydraulics market. I've written a couple of articles that became standards for the hydraulic industry, international standards called ISO standards. And so I guess that's if If you have to have some pride, I guess that would be my pride. And that, of course, is my family. The children have all turned out very well.
If you had your life to do over, what would you do differently?
Oh, gosh. I don't really think that I would do anything very much differently. A few little things maybe, but nothing very major.
Do you have any advice for me or my children to come?
Well, the world has changed so much. I guess it's hard for people my age to really understand some of the pressures that the younger people are going through. There's so much dope and drugs going on now that we never had all of that when I was young. Right and wrong is still the same, no matter how much ever other things have changed. And it's really easy, Luke, to know what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. And I'm going to tell you how you can tell. If it's something that you'd be ashamed to tell your mom or ashamed to tell me or your grandmother or some other adult who cares for you, if you'd be ashamed to tell us something that you had done, then don't do it. That's probably wrong.
All right, that's it. Thank you.